Good morning, Facebook friends. It's Paul here. I wanted to give you a quick little video just based on how to deal with anxiety, and that was brought up for me today when I went for a surf this morning and was having a chat to this chap, and we got talking out there on our boards about what it is that we both do. And I mentioned that I help people with depression and anxiety, and he started to talk and he started to tell me how he has those kind of thoughts and he begins to feel anxious a fair amount of the time. And as we were talking, I got to know the guy a lot better, and he's quite well known in his area, quite a successful guy, loves his surfing, owns surf shops and all those kind of things. And he said, "But Paul, at the end of the day, I'm just not happy." He said, "Surfing tends to help me focus on what I want," which I thought was really cool. So that inspired me to do a little video just as a bit of a share. So if you know anybody that is dealing with anxiety that would like some little tips on how to move through it, then feel free to share this little video. So the first thing with anxiety is understanding what it is, and that is that it's a chemical reaction inside your body based on what you're focusing on. So your thoughts then dictate what goes on with the chemicals inside your system. Again, I've said this before, but for those of you that think, "I'm not thinking anything, I just get anxious," it's not entirely true. You've got a conscious thinking, and then there's unconscious thinking. So there's thoughts going on that you're not even aware of. They're embedded. They come out and you just sort of feel anxious, but underneath that, it's based on a thought. All anxiety is either replaying a memory from the past or it's imagining an undesirable outcome. So that's a pretty big key, one or two directions. So the first thing is understand that the thoughts that you're listening to in your head, they're not you. Like, they're not your thoughts. If you can hear them, if you can observe that you're thinking, then by definition you're not the thought, you're observing it. So the first key is in just learning to hear the thought and letting it go. In other words, not being attached to it and not building an identity around that thought. So it's about being unattached. That's the first thing. And again, understanding that the focus is on creating the worst case outcome. So I'll give you an example that I still do it all the time, and it's even when I'm surfing. So if I go out surfing and I'm seeing somebody out on the water, my first urge may be to say g'day, but then when I can see someone, I think, "Oh geez, they look pretty unfriendly," they might shut me down or something like that. So I don't say anything, right? So I get these small feelings of rejection and anxiety. That's just a small case. So I'll paddle off and not speak. So why is it happening? It's because I'm already deciding and building this picture that I'm not going to create a connection and they're not going to be interested. So that's the first thing. The technique that I taught myself to use, it's called a pattern interrupt. And if any of you have ever been involved in NLP or anything like that, you will be familiar with this. So a pattern interrupt is just simply a way of interrupting your own thinking process, and you can do it 1,000 different ways. The one that I like the best is, I call it a broken record technique. So you know that noise that a record makes when you pull the needle or the stylus across the record, it goes like that. I make that noise in my head, and as I'm thinking the thought, so I go, okay, I'm thinking a crazy thought, so I pull that thing across, and it makes that noise. Now, a lot of the time the thought keeps trying to come back, so I'll keep pulling it across, and it'll come back, and I'll keep pulling it across. So after 5 or 6 times, I can't hear the thought anymore. All I can hear is this noise, like a record. So if you think of it like a record, if you get a record and you scratch it like that, that record will never play again. So what you're doing is you're taking a thought, you're scratching the hell out of it and interrupting the thought pattern so that it stops to go. Now, there's another huge law in the universe called the law of vacuum. So if you create a space, in other words, if you stop that thought in its tracks just from interrupting it like that all the time, then it creates a cavity or a space for another thought to come in. So where we've got to keep on going with this is that if you don't create a better thought, the old one will come back, or a different version of that one will come back, or you'll start to think about other things that don't make you feel so great. So law of vacuum, you've got to put something good in there to take its place. So what we want to do there is begin to build and just simply visualize the outcome that you're looking for. So I think visualization sometimes is over pumped up. You need to visualize this amazing, brilliant life. Start off with it like a muscle in the gym. You just want to visualize what would be the better thing to focus on in that moment. So one of the things I taught myself to focus on in the ocean is catching waves as opposed to just trying to talk to people. And that just got me completely out of focusing on the waves. And then all of a sudden I began to talk to people about waves, and talking was easy because it was a common bond. So it's just finding what it is that you need to focus on that's going to keep you feeling better, good, and just again interrupting that pattern for the anxiety thought. So I hope that helps. It's helped me so much. Again, it's just interrupting the thought and understanding that you aren't the thought. If you were the thought, then you wouldn't be aware that you're having it. So go ahead, interrupt those patterns. If you know anyone that wants to hear this, feel free to share it or tag it. And love to hear some feedback. If you guys get some results from this, that'd be fantastic. To know that it's getting some impact. Have a great weekend.